Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lion's Den. This is the Weekly Roar. It's great to have you back this week in the Lion's Den. Now, before we get started with today's topic, I want to wish all of my American viewers a happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a great time for reflection and to show our gratitude. So in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I want to take time to thank each and every one of you for supporting me and tuning in to the Weekly Roar over the past few years. I have much to be grateful for. Well, this week, I wanted to speak briefly about another important role for a leader to assume. This role has not always been in the mainstream, but in the recent past, it has become increasingly popular and much needed in the development of other leaders. In addition to mentoring, good leaders also develop their own coaching skills. So, why is it important that a leader also serves in the capacity of a coach? Today, I'll answer that question and others right here on the Weekly Roar. But before we get started, my name's Greg Storch, owner of Lion Enterprise, host of the Weekly Roar, and the founder of a worldwide bartered coaching program called The Helping Hand. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. Now, if you want to catch more of the Weekly Roar, you can find all of my video resources on my website at lion-enterprise.com. Just go to the Lion's Pride Library and check out all of my videos. Okay, everyone, let's talk about the leader as a coach. The true test of a good leader is how successful those they lead become in their own leadership journey. In addition to mentoring, one of the other ways a leader grows other leaders is by coaching those who show the potential and the desire to grow into a leader. Mentoring and coaching may sound very similar, but let me tell you that these skill sets are very different in their approach, despite the outcome being the same. One of the most distinct differences is that mentoring is directive and coaching is non-directive. So in practice, the mentoring leader is likely to do more of the talking, whereas the coaching leader prompts thought through effective questioning. Coaching gives the person being coached the space to reflect and do most of the talking. Now, at the end of the day, both coaching and mentoring are about helping others get where they want to go by leveraging the experience of the coach or mentor. Besides the fact that I'm a certified professional leadership coach myself, what we're seeing today in the corporate sector is the use of coaches by senior leaders, but in an attempt to improve themselves. While continuous self-improvement is the sign of a good leader, those that use coaching techniques with those they lead are much more successful than those who don't coach their followers. Now, you might be wondering why I might make that accusation. The fact is, coaching is focused on goals and potential. Anytime a leader can effectively help someone reach their goals and their full potential, they've just elevated their own leadership. I would like to see coaching become a common part of professional development at all levels within organizations instead of just being used only by a chosen few. But with that said, while there are a lot of leaders starting to embrace the need for coaching skills, many aren't receiving the right training on how to be a successful coach. I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about the key elements of a coaching relationship before I cover things like the skills required, because I really think it's important to understand this. And also, as a certified professional coach, I'm bound by the standards of the International Coach Federation to further the profession of coaching by properly representing it. So when a leader engages in a coaching relationship in the role of the coach, they got to understand some of the assumptions that are just going to be accepted. For example, coaches believe that the coachee, the person being coached, already has the answers they're seeking. The answer is inside, waiting to get out, but there's just something that's blocking them from accessing it. It may be a limiting belief or a bias they have. When a coach accepts this as truth, then it allows them to serve in the capacity of guide rather than the problem solver. Coaches really serve as a catalyst for change. They don't create the change in the coachee, they merely assist to help them move forward with the change. It's the coachee who is accountable in the process and is responsible to do the work. The coach just creates that foundation for them. And like everything else in leadership, this relationship is also built on trust. The conversations, the dialogue that happens between a leader and their coachee must always remain confidential, and the relationship needs to be highly respected. So those are just some of the basic premises, and I'm by no means trying to turn you into a coach right now, but for a leader to be successful using coaching skills, I want to move from the assumptions that coaches must accept and start to talk about some of the characteristics that the leader should have as well. You see, coaching isn't just about communication. It's about connecting with the coachee on a deeper level. So with that in mind, here are some of the traits that we should strive for when we consider our role as coaches. First, remember that the coaching relationship isn't built on the coach being in power over the coachee. That could be a challenge for leaders to get over, given their relationship to that coachee. But a good leader will understand that they must work cooperatively with their coachee to help them reach their goals. The leader, when acting in the role of a coach, is only in charge of the process and the structure, but not for setting the agenda or leading the discussions. Who's that the responsibility of? That's right. The person being coached sets their own agenda. Another trait that leaders have to display is that of an active listener. Now, I've already spoken about how good leaders are active listeners. Active listening in the coaching relationship means that the coach leader is fully present, both mentally and physically, during the coaching conversation. There are no distractions. It requires that we listen intently and ask clarifying questions to ensure that we have a good understanding of any concerns and objectives that the coachee might bring up. Active listening allows us to really discover who the coachee is in relationship to their issue. And once we understand that, we can begin to ask the right questions, so the coachee can start to uncover the answers that lie within. A properly trained coach understands the importance of powerful questions, and they develop their skills in that area. Just because you're experienced in an area doesn't mean you know the right questions to ask. That comes from practice and training. Powerful questions are open-ended and they prompt thought. They encourage the coachee to talk. Whereas closed-ended questions, the questions that simply have a yes or no answer, they cut the conversation short and it just doesn't encourage thought. Starting questions off using the word what is always a great place to start when formulating a question to ask your coachee. For example, you could ask them, what is another way of looking at that? Versus, can you think of another way to look at that? Of course, if you ask the second way, they're going to say yes or no, and then the conversation's over. Good questions don't have to be complex or deep, and they usually use words like what or how, when, where. Another trait that leaders have to develop in their role as a coach is not to bring their own agenda to the coaching relationship. See, good coaches are emotionally detached from outcomes of their coachee. They don't get sucked into the story and lost in their coachee's emotions. By using effective listening, that's a great way that you can avoid that whole scenario. Think about listening for the thing behind the thing, and that will be a great way to stay out of their story. See, a coachee may go on and on about their day, and you should give them some space to do that, but be careful not to get wrapped up in their story and keep the coaching session on track. If you aren't already coaching as a leader, now's a good time as ever to begin. We're all working through the traumas of the past year and a half. We're not just dealing with different levels of grief, but we're dealing with trying to figure out just exactly what life really looks like moving forward, because it isn't what we thought it was going to be. I mean, if you think about it, if someone you know hasn't gotten COVID or lost someone from it or doesn't feel affected at all by it, there are still ramifications to adjusting to change almost every day. People aren't just stressed and overwhelmed with their jobs, but they're also stressed with the day-to-day life. If there were ever a time for coaching, it would be right now. Now, the cool thing about the effects of coaching others is that it not only positively impacts the person, but it positively impacts the company at the same time. So, as you can tell from my last two episodes, great leadership is made up of different roles that come together on different styles. One of the more important leadership roles that I believe is often overlooked is the role of being a coach. Now, if you've ever played sports or trained under a really good coach, then you can probably already understand the power of a coach's influence. Now, just like those awesome coaches, the best leaders give those around them permission to succeed and help them reach their potential. That's why this is becoming more and more essential in the workplace today. So let me wrap things up by just saying this. Developing your coaching skills is a journey of learning and practice, and it starts with accepting that the world isn't all about us. I know it's hard to deal with. Curiosity and empathy for others may make you feel vulnerable, but it's the first step to adding real value to others. You know, Brené Brown said it best when she said, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. It all begins with a conscious choice to listen, and it demands our undivided attention so that our brain can make sense of what is being said by those we're coaching. It makes me think of that quote by Mark Twain that said, if we were supposed to talk more and listen less, we'd have been given 2 mouths and only 1 ear. I really love what my fellow ICF professional certified coach, Hetty Brand Boswick, said in her 2020 article called The Leader as a Coach. She said, here, let me read this to you. Learning coaching skills does not make you a good leader, and it's not a quick fix. There must be an inherent desire to empower and develop colleagues, as well as see and hear them non-judgmentally and with empathy. Furthermore, it is only the next step in a leadership journey. In this age of digitalization, disruption, and discomfort, one's effectiveness as a leader is in part due to each leader discovering and accepting their own strengths and blind spots and acknowledging the same in those that they deal with on a daily basis without judgment and discrimination. That's why I wanted to talk about the important role of coaching. All right, everybody, that does it for me today. Another micro lesson in leadership, the important role a leader takes on as the coach. Thank you all again for supporting me and joining me in the Lion's Den. Now, if you want to keep running to the roar, then of course, join me again next week. All you have to do is just come on back to the Lion's Den next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Until we meet again, remember, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.